Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Saturday night, it is a big fight in the Big Apple, the Mecca of international boxing, Madison Square Garden, New York. And it is Josh Taylor defending his ring and WBO Junior Welterweight Championship of the World against the former lightweight champion, Teofimo Lopez. If you are excited about the fight and interested to know how I see it, how I break it down, and if you would like to leave your comments and tell me how you see it, then stick around. So Saturday night at Madison Square Garden, we've got the Tartan Tornado, Josh Taylor, defending his titles against the takeover, Teofimo Lopez, who just a few fights ago was supposed to be the next big thing in boxing, as was Josh Taylor, who cracked the pound-for-pound top 10, but he was undisputed junior welterweight champion of the world. Now he's only the WBO and the ring champion, as boxing politics go, and they both have something to prove. For Josh Taylor, he was supposed to be having a homecoming showcase against Jack Catterall in Glasgow in front of his home crowd, and things did not go well at all. He salvaged a split decision in the end, so he's still undefeated at 19-0 with 13 knockouts. But the fight caused an outcry. There were many who believed that Jack Catterall did enough to win. I watched the fight, I scored it. I had Catterall a close winner. I don't think it was the robbery of a decade, like many people say, but to me, you know, boxing has set the bar quite high with controversial decisions. There's so many of them. But anyhow, I think it was a legit close fight. I think Catterall, I scored the fight for him, but I think he was a bit negative as well. There was a lot of wrestling and shoving. But suffice it to say, the southpaw from Glasgow looked the worst I've ever seen him look. Thanks to some of it, we must give Catterall some credit as well. But I don't think it was a proper Josh Taylor in there. And fighters often say, just like the fighters who say after they've lost, they lost to a better man, that makes them look better, and that's what we want them to say. And fighters often say they prepare the same for a run-of-the-mill fighter and they prepare for a big star. But in reality, it's psychologically very difficult to get up for it. And I think Josh Taylor was not quite up for Jack Catterall as he should have been. He came out into it having won the World Boxing Super Series for Ali Trophy. He beat Ivan Baranchyk, he beat Regis Prograis, and he also became the undisputed world champion by beating Jose Ramirez. So going back fighting Jack Catterall, I think he underestimated the guy a bit, and I think Catterall is in his own right a good and awkward fighter. But leaving that as it is, let's go to Teofimo Lopez. He also has something to prove. You know, he looked like becoming the takeover, like his nickname said. He blasted out Richard Comey to win the IBF world title. Then he picked up the WBA and WBO titles from Vasyl Lomachenko, as well as the ring belt. And then everything came apart. We had the pandemic playing a part. There was injuries, there were postponements, and he lost to complete underdog George Kambosos, and his titles were gone. Since then, he's moved up to junior welterweight. He looked okay against Pedro Campa, stopping him. He didn't look bad. And then in his last fight against Sandor Martin, a tricky southpaw who handed Mikey Garcia upset loss, Teofimo Lopez to me looks also very bad. I think what I can take from Lopez compared to Taylor, at least Lopez had inactivity. He's been fighting, whereas Taylor hasn't fought in about 16 months now. I think it is more than a year's worth of inactivity. And that's a big thing that I think Teofimo Lopez has got going for him in this fight. He's at least been active. He shouldn't have ring rust. But on the other hand, if we look at these fighters in their last fights, if Lopez fought like he did against Martin, even though Martin is awkward, and if Taylor's going to beat him, he's a much better southpaw than Sandor Martin. And if Taylor fights like he did against Jack Catterall, if he's struggling to make weight, if it's the same situation, then Teofimo Lopez is going to beat him. So if each fighter must not have the same level of performance as they did in their last fight. But I think they will be up for this. And what is the key to the fight to both fighters? Now, I think Josh Taylor is naturally the bigger, rangier guy. So he's got to use his reach. He's got to box. He's got the better feet. I think his movement is better. And he's a southpaw to boot, a very good southpaw. And if we look at Teofimo Lopez, he's susceptible to getting knocked down earlier. It happened against George Kambosos. It even happened against Sandor Martin. So he does get caught with a southpaw left coming in. So I think Taylor will be looking at the timing with his southpaw left, whether in a straight punch or an uppercut. And if I'm Josh Taylor, I would try and get off to an early start. Don't wait too long, but yes, he's got to be careful because we all know Teofimo Lopez, who's 18-1 now with 13 knockouts, he can punch, he can hurt you, as can Taylor. So both will have to be a little bit careful, but I think Taylor should take advantage of Lopez's propensity to get knocked down early because Lopez believes in his power. He can get a little reckless. He's got to keep busy with that jab, and he's got to be busy. When in the fight against Jose Ramirez, Ramirez got off to a good start when after the first round he bowled Taylor into the ropes and started working him over. I think Taylor's got to command the center of the ring more, and I think Lopez, for his part, Teofimo Lopez, is going to have to be aggressive. He's going to have to punch up the body to slow down Josh Taylor. And Taylor does leave gaps, right? His hands, his guard is not very high. It comes up when the opponent becomes closer. But he sometimes, after he punches, his hands are low. There's counter-punching opportunities there. And Lopez has to keep the pressure on Taylor. He's got to look for those opportunities. Now, if I look at the poll there on Ring Magazine's blog, ringtv.com, everybody is picking Taylor to win, which I find very surprising because to me it's a pick 'em fight. It depends who brings his A game on the night, and that is what who I think is going to win. So I've got to look at these guys mentally. I think that's the hard because you don't know them personally. You just go with the reports and the vibe that they get out. But Lopez has been having trouble in camp. There's conflict with him and his dad. He strikes me as a guy that gets emotional in that ring. I saw that against Kambosos, and he maybe makes a wrong strategic decision. Josh Taylor, to me, is a little bit more calm under fire. I think he's a slightly better seasoned fighter. I think for Baranchik, Prograis, those kind of guys. Before you also had Jose Ramirez. Whereas Lopez, Commey was a solid fighter, and then, of course, the win over Lomachenko, that looks very good. But I think Taylor's just a little bit more seasoned on the big stage. I think there'll be some support for Taylor, and there'll also be a lot of support for Teofimo Lopez, because I think he is from nearby Brooklyn. I think originally from Honduras, but he's basically a New York fighter, more so than Josh Taylor is, who's from Scotland. So I think he'll have a support behind him there. But in the end, surprisingly, I'm going to agree with those people on the ring poll. But I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it. But I do think that Josh Taylor is going to catch Teofimo Lopez. I do think Teofimo Lopez is going to take another flash knockdown like he did against Sandor Martin and against George Kambosos. And all in all, Josh Taylor is to me a much better fighter than George Kambosos or Sandor Martin. He's a next level fighter. So Lopez is going to have to really be the takeover and take over all these mistakes of the obvious talent and the obvious power and the obvious nice way that he can put together his combinations that he's got. And he's up against a slightly bigger man. I just think, to me, Josh Taylor, I think they should have a weight under control. If not, then I think he's the kind of guy that would have moved up by now. He was going to fight Catterall again in a rematch. That fight got scuppered, lots of frustration. The big red light with Josh Taylor that worries me a bit is the inactivity. Inactivity for a sharp boxer like Taylor is never a good thing. But they would have had the best sparring they could possibly get. So that's the one thing about Josh Taylor, is the inactivity. And then also he's 32 years old as compared to Teofimo Lopez is 25 years old. But it's not old. And he hasn't been in hugely punishing wars. Catterall was a tough fight, but it wasn't a war. And Ramirez was more something towards that ilk. But I don't think he's got so many miles on the clock, Josh Taylor, that things will suddenly come apart. They've got an even number of fights. So I think they're very much even in that respect. So I don't think that's going to be a factor. I think power-wise, Teofimo was a good puncher, a very good puncher at lightweight. I think he still carries power at junior welterweight. You can see how careful Martin was to slug with him. And I do think each man has a capability of hurting the other man, but I don't think either one of them is going to take enough risk, or it's hard enough to clean their opponent out with a shot or two. So I'm expecting a distance fight. I'm expecting Taylor to find his range and maybe score a flash knockdown. I won't be surprised if Teofimo does it. Taylor has only been knocked down once, pro or amateur, against Catterall, but that was a kind of knockdown that went with all this wrestling, and it was a legit knockdown, but it was also a balanced kind of thing and a surprise kind of thing from an awkward angle there. So it could be that Lopez also scores a knockdown, but in the end, I think Josh Taylor will just have a better feet, will just be a bit sharper over the stretch. He'll just be naturally the bigger man to win a hard-fought decision. So I'm going with all the other guys, even though I'm surprised that nobody's picking Lopez. But I'm going with Josh Taylor, the Tartan Tornado, too, to put things together and run home a decision winner. I just have a feeling that some fighters, they need something that they perceive as really dangerous in front of them, a really big stage to really hit for high notes, and I think Josh Taylor is one of them. And if you're not up for Teofimo Lopez, you're not going to be up for anything, because he is indeed a dangerous fighter. But Teofimo Lopez needs to win this fight as well. So if he's not motivated, then I don't know. If he's ever going to be the takeover, he needs to win this. If he doesn't, then he steps back into line. But that's what I think. I've got Josh Taylor winning this one by decision. The last time I spoke to you guys, I got it horribly wrong. Nick Ball eventually stopped Ludomo Lamati, who was in hospital. I spoke to his manager this morning, Colin Nathan. He's up and he's speaking and he's eating. He's still got a long road to recovery. He's still going to be in the hospital for quite a while, but he's moving in the right direction. So please keep Ludomo Lamati in your thoughts and prayers. And tell me in the comment section, what do you think about Josh Taylor against Teofimo Lopez? Who do you have winning and why? So that's it from me, guys. Please punch that like button and please hit the subscribe if you find the channel interesting. And as always, until I see you again, keep those hands up.